Welcome, welcome, welcome. Really lovely to be in your presence. Congratulations on carving out some time and space for yourself. It's no small feat. So art making can be a very nourishing and wonderful way to be with ourselves. And some of you already know that. And some of you might feel very long distant from your creative self, or maybe even believe that you're not particularly creative. I'm here to say and to show you that you are creative. It can be a wonderful nourishment. I reckon, why don't we just jump into, well, not jump, sort of ease into our very first little, what I think of as a creative process. It doesn't necessarily involve art making. It's more of an imaginary, tuning into imagining and sensing sort of process. And that's just to help arrive and land and be in this space. Actually, are there any particular questions before, like just a quick question or anything that needs to be known or said before we do that, just to double check? So if you're okay actually to close your eyes, that's completely fine. If you're not, of course, but if you are okay to close your eyes and just breathe. This Be as a Tree Art for Wellbeing session is as much about being. Actually, the word be is in both of those titles. Art for Wellbeing, be as a tree. So I invite you to let yourself be. And maybe let go of a strong breath or two. Especially if you're on mute and you're in your own space, you can let go of a yawn or a grisly sound or a blah, 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 blah. There might be a blah, 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 blah for everything that's happened so far this morning and the whole thing of getting yourself here and just life and everything and weather and oh my goodness, blah, 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 blah. You could talk some gibberish to the universe for this moment. And feeling your feet making contact with the floor and your body making contact with the chair and the parts of your head and body that make contact with the air and space around you. Maybe even giving yourself a little welcome message. Welcome here. Congratulations on being here. You deserve it. Self-care, creative self-care is important. So I invite you to allow a tree to present itself to your mind's eye or to your heart. And this might be a tree from your present life. It might be a tree from your past, from your childhood. It might be an imaginary tree. It might just be a color or a shape or a sense of tree. But just to see if there's just even hearing and thinking and feeling into tree, and maybe letting yourself, if there's a whole lot of different images of trees that come to you, just let yourself choose one or trust your first impulse. Trust your first instinct. It's an invitation to connect with a tree. And let yourself somehow be with that tree, that word, image, colour, sense, feeling of a tree. And letting there be space for the tree to communicate two things to you. The first one is I am, ... Allow the tree to let you know something in response to I am. And secondly, I offer you. Allow the tree to say or let you know in some way what it offers you just in this moment. And just listen for a response. It could be anything. Might not be in English. Might be in tree language. I offer you. We'll have a minute or just 2 minutes, really, really swiftly, if you want to either stay in that internal space of just sensing, feeling into tree, or to really quickly write something down or make a mark on paper. It'll be literally 2 minutes. There's no compulsion to obligation to do, to write or draw or whatever it is at this moment. You might just want to stay in that space. Just a couple of minutes. With any of, pardon me, with any of the exercises or processes we do here, there's no right or wrong. There really isn't. It's just a quality of connecting with yourself and your creative knowing. And in a moment, I invite you to, if you are mark making, if you are writing, I invite you to pause that, even though it might have taken a year to get to it and you've just started and now I'm asking you to stop. Oh my goodness. You can continue with it, of course, if you want to. So that's the first of 3 tuning into trees and playing with tree and creative tree this morning. So the next thing is, actually, before I bring forth the next little playful exercise, just want to say that sometimes in this sort of space, especially if you haven't had the opportunity to be in this kind of breathing out, nourishment, self-care space for a while, sometimes feelings will come up, and often connected with creativity, feelings surface. You might have been in kind of coping, getting things done mode, and then sometimes this is a different space that allows for something else to come through, and just to kind of, I suppose, name that and encourage you to not be afraid of that. That you know, feelings are welcome here. Feelings will move and shift and pass, and just wanted to acknowledge. Yeah. So how about, I'm calling this one wonky tree. And oh, before I introduce this little exercise, if you feel that you've already just opened up to something and you want to keep going with it, you are, of course, very welcome to do that. You can ignore my my guidance and keep going with whatever most strongly moves you. This is all about listening to your own impulses and trusting your own authority. So if you are going to kind of go with this one, actually, just an invitation too is, if you're okay to put your camera, if it's easy, it's not always easy with computers and phones and this, that and the other, but if you're okay to put your camera facing down onto your art or your hands, that might be horrifying to you. The last thing you want is big enough to be seen facially, but only if you're okay with that. That sort of helps give me also a sense of where we're at and how we're going. So make sure you've got something, an art material, maybe to start off with just a pen or a crayon, or a texter, just one in your hand, and some paper. And yeah, this one's a little bit of I'm thinking of it as a bit of a playful wonky tree kind of thing. So let yourself have a drawing implement, mark making implement in your hand, if you've got one, piece of paper there, and completely counterintuitively, close your eyes. Once again, only if you're okay to. And so if you do have, whether you have your eyes closed or not, maybe just momentarily tuning into the sensory nature of this. So this is perhaps letting your hand that's holding the drawing implement just be aware of what that feels like. The weight of it, the lightness of it, smooth, rough. And allow your other hand to make contact with the paper. Perhaps even patting it or stroking it, or just feeling the edges of it. Might be kind of sharpish edges and smooth or textured surface. And with your eyes closed, once again, if you're okay to, let yourself draw a tree, knowing, fully knowing that it is not going to look like what you intended or the picture in your head. It's kind of mark making in the direction of tree. It's going to be wonky tree. Will not be exactly as you expect if you have your eyes closed. So let yourself play on the paper. You might want to keep the drawing implement kind of continuously making contact with the paper, or you might want to lift it every now and then. And so it might be some roots, it might be a trunk, it might be branches, there might be leaves or flowers or fruit, there might be earth, there might be sky, it might not be any of those things. They all sound like conventional ideas about tree. It might just be following the crayon or the pen on the paper in whatever way pleases you. And if you're okay to hang in there with the closed eyes space for another minute or so, and then when you open your eyes, see if you can look with kindness at whatever has appeared on the paper. And if and when you do open your eyes, and you might not want to, you might be enjoying the mark making with eyes closed, perhaps making use of what's already there on the page as a starting point for making patterns or colouring in or colouring out, what I call colouring out, which is where you really, really don't need to feel hemmed in by the lines that are already there, where you really can let yourself feel free to make wonkiness or mess or blotches, whatever it is. So you're kind of just using what's there as a starting point, a jumping off point for further play on that piece of paper. And we'll do this for about another 5 minutes or so. It's fine if it's completely off topic and doesn't feel very tree energy at all. That's absolutely okay. I think someone Oh no, we on? Yeah, mute. Yeah, thank you. And see if you can allow whatever process you're engaged in to be nourishing for you, knowing it doesn't have to look like any particular thing. It doesn't have to be a something. It's a way of you to connect with yourself, with perhaps externalizing something that might be sitting there inside. It might be a way of calming or self-soothing. It might be you connecting in with whatever your original tree here today offered you, and see if you can, so if it's whatever the original tree offered you, see if you can bring that quality or those qualities through your art making. Or through your very being. It doesn't have to be about pushing for something, striving, just about being on the page, being with yourself, being with the materials, seeing what they do. I can't help myself. I start to think about quirky little rhymes. So it's being, seeing, and freeing. So let yourself play with the materials at hand. And in a minute or so, I'll offer another invitation or prompt for the art making or writing or creating. And it'll be a bit of a guided, embodied meditation or contemplation. And you feel free to continue. You make that choice. Listen to your own impulse. Once again, you might continue with what you're doing and allow some of what I say, some of my words, to maybe waft in and maybe inform or not inform whatever happens next. Or you might actually pause, stop, close your eyes or not, and engage in the guided meditation. So really entirely up to you. And whether you, even after the meditation, whether you continue with one of the pieces that you've already started today, or whether you start something afresh, any of these options, completely fine. So I'm thinking to kind of go straight into that without necessarily showing or sharing what's come through so far. We'll have another opportunity for that a bit later on. That might have all sounded very waffly and vague to you because you're so immersed in what you're already doing. So if you want to, kind of thanking the art materials, your creative process, the essence of tree for whatever has come through already. Perhaps pausing. I don't know how easy it would be to, I'm thinking with this kind of embodied meditation, if it's easy to stand, it might not be at all, especially if you're all hooked up to speakers and got cameras in certain places and everything. It might be standing or sitting, but I'm going to invite you to tune into yourself as if you were a tree. So this is the be as a tree, or this is the be as a tree part of this play shop, this session. So it's getting yourself comfortable whether you're sitting or standing. And either keeping going with the art making or letting yourself be with this internal contemplation. Letting go of a strong breath or two. Maybe even wriggling your shoulders, rotating your wrists, shaking each leg. You've been, it's been a sitting and being in a certain way. Maybe releasing any particular part of your body that's been supporting, working hard at playing. And imagine your feet and legs are roots of a tree. They're going down into the earth. The earth, the soil is supporting you. It provides nutrients. There's lots of life in every part of this tree system that is you. You don't have to do anything. The roots of you as a tree wend their way through the earth, through the soil, receiving, giving, holding you strong. Feel whatever that feels like. Letting your attention be with the body of you, the torso of you, the trunk, perhaps, of the tree of you. Containing all sorts of flows and channels and cells and so much, and living organisms, and you have bark, and you have a whole strong, beautiful trunk of tree. That knows how to carry messages to and fro inside. And perhaps imagining or feeling into your upper body and your your arms, and maybe your neck and your head as branches. You have branches. You are a tree with roots and a trunk and branches. So being aware of your branches. Noticing if you have leaves, and what are the qualities of the leaves. Maybe many, many leaves. Noticing if you have fruit or flowers. Being aware of perhaps living beings, maybe birds or other living beings that you have a relationship with as this tree. Being aware of seasons, your presence and your life through different weathers and seasons. And know that you are strong. You are connected with many forms of life. You are supported. You quite likely offer support and nourishment for others as a tree, other beings. You too are nourished and supported. There is a flow of life within you and around you. So when you're ready, as tree, you might want to allow your friend, the person who's present in this session, to express something of you on paper. It might be that you start a fresh image or writings. We'll have about 10, 15 minutes with this. It might be that you come back to one of the pieces you've already started today and add to it, change it, or it might be a new creation that calls to come through. Or you might just want to stay in that tree at rest place. Don't have to do anything. If the human that you are here with, O tree, feels like putting and it's easy to put the camera onto your hands, please do. And if not, that is also fine. If in doubt, allow the art material to lead you, even if it turns out quite different from where you thought you were going or what you're expecting to appear. It's not about artistic technique or skill or whatever your perceptions are of that. It's about giving yourself space to be, to play, to nourish, to express. A different zone from the day-to-day. If you're not sure at any point of what you might want to do or what might appear on the page next, perhaps approach it with a sense of curiosity. What if I were to do a blue wavy line here. What if I were to try putting this colour on top of that one? What then? And knowing that each person's expression here today will be different. It'll be your unique expression and journey. We'll have another 5 minutes with this round of mark making or writing or sitting. Whatever thoughts or feelings or sensations come through, know that the art materials and the paper can hold it. They are there to receive it, whatever it is. And in the last minute or so of this part of our journey here today, this mark making session, see if there's a gesture or something that wants to be made, something that's calling to happen with this creation that maybe you were not sure about, and just see if you can let yourself go there. It'll be literally in in just another minute or so. So finding a finishing or pausing mark. Sometimes I think this is the toughest part of a play shop or of a group. It's like, oh no, you might have just gotten going, and here we are already finishing. You might need to make somehow a future artist date with yourself, whether that's here in the next one of these sessions or some other appointment that you put in your diary. I'm going to give myself 10 minutes of drawing time today. Anyway, gently being with yourself and with whatever the creation is that has just come through. And letting yourself lightly reflect on whatever this process was like for you, of the guided reflection, the mark making, the writing, the simply sitting and being. So what the process was like, and if you have made a picture, what stands out for you in what you see. See if you can bring kindness to this reflection, this noticing, to your own creation. Yeah, so thank you, each of you, for being here and being willing to connect with yourself so authentically, and with each other, and with the mark making and creative play. I feel very blessed to have spent this time with you and hear and see your stories and your experiences and the myriad of ways that you've responded to the prompts and invitations. And I hope this is this has provided some nourishment for you, and something that you can chew on or keep savoring in some way through your day and maybe through your week.